The secret origin of December 25th. Yeah, what's going on, part of people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, and Brooklyn, of course, it's the borough. So, what's going on? What's popping? Hope everybody's doing well this week. As always, if you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please share the link. Tell a friend that's him again. And if you like what's going down in this particular part of the YouTube landscape, you can support me via PayPal. Or if you would like to support on a monthly basis, you could become a patron where you will be just given a plethora of various materials that will help enhance your personal quiet time slash Bible study. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are here, and of course, we gotta say what's up to the people in the chat. Oh wow, Phil Fox, Mr. Phil Fox, off the gate with the super chat. Love you, my guy. Right back at you, sir. Right back at you. We got 02122 early bird gang. What's going on? We got Devin in the building. We got my man CMB. We got Romy Rome in the house. We got Mr. Green in the building. We got Ranger in the building. Oh man, this is good. This is good. Come on, guys. Please definitely share the link. And you know, it's oh wow. And another super chat. Thank you, AC. Really appreciate the love, you guys. Very early. That's what's up. Um, so we've come to that part of the year once again where we'll be, roasting marshmallows and sleigh rides and hear the hoofs of reindeer on rooftops. Like, in other words, we're talking about Christmas. And yes, thank you, Devin. I love your teaching about the history of Christmas. It's very helpful during this time of year with family. Yeah, I'm glad it can be of assistance. It's definitely something that helped me a lot. And just got to study and dig deeper so that we can have a better understanding of what really is factual. And here's Michelle with the love and hate at the same time, saying that the thumbnail is pagan. Bodega ladies at the house. We got RNO. Yes. Now, I was being a little clickbaity, RNO. So we're not going to really talk about Mariah. But, Mariah has become pretty much synonymous with what we're going to talk about today. So she's kind of like the poster girl. So I hope you're not upset. I hope you stay and you don't unsubscribe. So, but yeah. So last year, as many of we had our first ever Bodega Christmas special, and it was something I felt really was important for us to do. And I hope that it helped you guys to give you information so that when you do have these conversations with friends and family, that you have some sources that you can cite so that you could, and it's not so much defending Christmas. You don't have to defend it. It's not a salvific matter. You know what I mean? It's not a hill that you have to necessarily die on. But, people will use this as a way to shake people's faith. So for that and that alone, we should have an apologetic, just so we could be clear on what is and is not of the Lord, right? So, Devin, it's funny. He's like, "What? You're not you're not paying Mariah Carey music in the background? I'm gonna unsubscribe." Man, if I was playing her music, I get a copyright strike, so I couldn't do it even if I wanted to, bro. Yeah, hey, Mr. Phil Fox. All I want for Christmas is stop playing that. Nah, bro. You think it's bad now? You're gonna hear the trap remix. You're gonna hear the salsa remix. You're gonna hear the lo-fi remix. It's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be nuts. So last year, right? So we tackled Christmas as an entire holiday. We talked a little bit about the origin. We talked a little bit about the Christmas tree, Christmas wreaths, and all different traditions to see whether or not these have anything that are harmful to believers. And I think we came to the conclusion that that is not the case. So what I'm going to do this year is actually just really focus on the day itself, right? December 25th. Now, the issue people have with December 25th, yes, a reggaeton remix might be a little fire. That I might give that one a pass, depending on how they do it. But anyway, let me focus here. Right? The idea is that Christmas was chosen on this day because it attaches itself to some pagan holidays, right? For instance, Saturnalia, right? We've seen a bunch of memes saying that Christmas is just a derivative or just a Greco-Roman or anglicized version, I guess, of Saturnalia, right? So let's see if that's the case. So we're going to look at Philip Schaff and Henry Wass, The Table of Roman Macedonian Months, a select library of Nicene and post-Nicene Fathers of the Christian Church, second series, volume 1. It says here, before we get into the text discussing timing, it is important to understand how Romans reference time. Unlike modern times, whereby we number every day, the Romans divided a month into 3 parts. The first of the months was known as the Kilids, the middle or Ides of a month, as in Beware the Ides of March, from Shakespeare, Julius Caesar, and the space in between them known as the Nuns. Other dates were referenced as before these 3 points. So the 25th of December would be 8 days before the calendars of January. So it's important for us to know how that the calendars worked back then, right? So when studying the ancient reference to Saturnalia, a primary source we have is written by the Roman Macrobius, who lived in the 5th century. His work, Saturnalia, provides much of the details of the origin stories of the celebration as well as its customs. Ancient text scholar T.C. Schmidt highlighted this passage from Saturnalia, Book 1, Chapter 10, given the dates of the celebration. So, right? And this makes sense, right? If you want to know if Saturnalia or Christmas comes from Saturnalia, if they have matching dates, you go to the actual source in which we know the dates of this particular holiday, right? Makes sense. Our ancestors, and this is the translation of this book about Saturnalia. This is the quote. Our ancestors restricted the Saturnalia to a single day, the 14th before the calendars of January. But after Gaius Caesar had added 2 days to December, the day in which the festival was held became the 16th before the calendars of January. With the result that since the exact day was not commonly known, some observing the addition which Caesar had made to the calendar and others following the old usage, the festival came to be regarded as lasting for more days than 1. So it started at 1. Caesar added a couple days. So he wanted people to worship, celebrate this day and those days. But people were old school with it and they still want to keep the old day. So basically people compromised and just made, they added everything. So it was more than just 1 day. Okay. And yet, in fact, among the men of old time, there were some who supposed that Saturnalia lasted for 7 days. One can infer then, from all that has been said, that Saturnalia lasted but 1 day and was held only on the 14th day before the calendars of January. It was on this day alone that the shout of "Lo, Saturnalia" would be raised in the temple of Saturn at a riotous feast. Now, however, during the celebration of Saturnalia, this day is allotted to the festival of Opalia, although the day was first assigned to Saturn and Ops in common. Now, what does that mean, right? What is all that? What is that, what do we summarize from all that? Well, Saturnalia was a 3-day-long feast that begins 16 days before January 1st. Their December was 31 days long, as is ours. So that places Saturnalia on December 17th. Far too early to be mistaken for December 25th. So when we look at the primary source, the go-to book to know the celebration date of Saturnalia, we know that they followed that day on December 17th. So it doesn't match. So Saturnalia doesn't coincide with Christmas. It does not coincide with December 25th, right? So that's one day done, right? But there's another quote unquote pagan holiday that people attach to December 25th, and that's the Dies Natalis Solis Invictus, right? The celebration of the sun. We're probably we probably see more memes about this, Sol Invictus, because supposedly Christians worship the sun, right? So the Sol Invictus cult followers worship the sun. Thomas Talley reports that while Emperor Aurelian did not first introduce Rome to the cult, he popularized it and the celebration day. Previously, local celebrations of Sol revolved around the dedication of the gods' temples in August or November. So when people started worshiping, having their day for Sol Invictus, it was in August and or November, not December 25th, right? So let's keep going. In fact, the word Natalis could mean more than simply birthday, but it may also be used as the concept of an anniversary. As Roger Peirce notes, there is also the question of what Natalis means. It could mean birthday, but also it could mean anniversary of the dedication of a temple. This seems to be the meaning of a Natalis in the calendar. We know that Aurelian dedicated the temple of Sol Invictus. Thus, we can get a festival on the anniversary of the dedication of the temple, and thus the idea that the festival was created at the same time by Aurelian. Now watch this. There is no evidence that Aurelian instituted a celebration of Sol on that day, December 25th. There's no evidence. There's no data. A feast day for Sol on December 25th is not mentioned until 80 years later in the calendar of 354 or subsequently in 362 by Julian in his oration to King Helios. So Sol Invictus was August, November, and he never made a day, he never celebrated December 25th. And it wasn't until 80 years after, right, that they actually, when we first see Sol Invictus being celebrated in the mid-4th century, 354 and 362. Remember those dates. It's going to be really important, right? Now, we already kind of debunked it because the initial dates, the initial months that they celebrated Sol Invictus was not even December, let alone December 25th. And it wasn't until way after that they decided to celebrate December 25th. But remember the year, 354 and 362. We will be coming back to that, okay? So, if it's not Saturnalia and it's not Sol Invictus, what is the secret origin of December 25th? Are we ready to find out? I need some ones in the chat. If you want to know the origin of December 25th, I need to see some ones light up the chat right now. Because we already saw that it's not Saturnalia, and we already saw that it's not really Sol Invictus. Actually, we got to find out how much it's not Sol Invictus in a minute. But I need some ones in the chat. Are we ready? Okay, I see the ones. All right. Drum roll, please. Here we go. The secret origin comes from, well, one of the citations here is from Thomas J. Taylor, The Origin of the Liturgical Year. There was a belief within the early church that the date of the death of Jesus would also reflect either his birth or his conception. Ta-da! This is why they try to figure it out. They figured December 25th because they were trying to calculate the death and his birth. So if we know when he died, we could just count back the months and know when he was born. So that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to calculate that. It had nothing to do really to attach themselves to a pagan holiday. But let's get into it more. All right. Now there's two competing hypotheses. Okay, when it comes to dating. right? The first one here is the computation hypothesis, first advanced by Louis Dessinet, attributed the festivals to the results of attempts to calculate the exact day in the year which Jesus had actually been born. These particular dates have been arrived at, it was thought, by inference from the alleged date of the death of Jesus, since early Christians were convinced that he must have lived upon the earth for an exact number of years, and therefore the date on which he died would also have the same as the date of his conception. This is how they were thinking back then, right? Thus, those who regarded March 25th as the date of the crucifixion and conception would have placed the nativity 9 months later on December 25th, while those who believed that the date of his death to have been April 6th would have assigned the birth to the 6th of January. So they were doing some calculations with the months, and there was some discrepancies. Some churches thought, it was January 6th. Others thought it was December 25th, depending on how you calculated, the life and times of Jesus, right? But what you notice here, there's nothing here talking about any kind of pagan holiday. But there is a competing hypothesis, though. But this is the computation hypothesis. And now we're going to look at another hypothesis here. Later scholars generally rejected this explanation and preferred an older theory known as the history of religions hypothesis, according to which December 25th was chosen at Rome because it was also the date of the winter solstice in the Julian calendar and a popular pagan feast. So now, when people make the claim, there's a reason. People are not crazy when people actually make these memes and say that, we think that Christmas is attached to a pagan holiday, because there are some historians who actually teach that. They teach the history of religious hypothesis. But let's continue. The Das Natalis Solis Invictus, the birthday of the invincible sun, established by the Emperor Aurelian in 274, after the peace of Constantine the Christians, it was said, wanted to draw people away from these pagan festivities and point to Christ as the true Son of righteousness, and so instituted at Rome the Feast of Nativity on the same date. Eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, on the other hand, were said to observe January 6th as the date of the winter solstice, according to the ancient calendar of Amenemhat I of Thebes. And so the Christian feast, too, were established on that date there. The roots of this explanation can be traced back as far as the 17th century, but it received its chief impetus from Hermann Fesner in 1889. So you had these competing hypotheses. On one side, you have the computation hypothesis, which is saying that they were just trying to figure out when he died and count back to when he was born, and that would be the day we celebrate. But the history of religion hypothesis said, well, they purposely, they wasn't counting the months to see when he was dead, and counted back. They actually attached themselves to a pagan feast to somehow draw people away from the pagan feast, right? So you got these two competing hypotheses. Now, the history of religion hypothesis has some issues. And we're going to look at it right now. Thomas Talley, however, has challenged the dominance attained by this theory and revived the Christianize hypothesis. He has pointed out that Augustine, in one of his sermons, alluded to the fact that the Donatists in North Africa, unlike the Catholics, had not adopted the celebration of the Feast of the Epiphany on January 6th, which seemed to imply that they did celebrate December 25th. This in turn suggested that Christians must already have existed prior to the Donatist schism in 311. That's big, right? They're saying here, he's saying that Augustine, in a sermon in North Africa, was saying that they were celebrating December 25th prior to the schism, which is in 311. So that puts us into the 3rd century, as opposed to the 4th century, when Sol Invictus started being celebrated. Right? That's a big deal. right? And hence at a date when it would have unlikely that the Christians would have wanted any accommodation to less than friendly imperial religious sentiments on the basis of other evidence supporting the computation hypothesis from Augustine and from an anonymous work known as the De Solotilis, which was apparently also of North African provenance. Tally tentatively suggested the possibility that Christmas may have first appeared in that region rather than at Rome, as usually supposed. So, based on the evidence and data he has, not only were these Christians worshiping or celebrating the birth of Christ December 25th prior to Sol Invictus, but look where they were celebrating. It was the churches in Africa. The churches in Africa were celebrating the birth of Christ prior to the churches in Rome. Now, he's not coming out front and saying it, but based on what we see here, Augustine was in North Africa. This other thing happened in North Africa, and then he's saying that chances are that that region, Africa, he doesn't say it, but that particular region I was just talking about, it's a good chance they were celebrating it first anyway. It was December 25th, prior to Sol Invictus. Because it says here, right, 311. So let me go back, right? Remember, Sol Invictus in the calendar was 354, then 362. Augustine's talking about they were doing December 25th before 311, right? So that puts us in 2nd century as opposed to 4th century. But let's continue. And the reason why they would have never, the comparison religion hypothesis won't work, because at this time in history, the persecuted Christian minority was greatly concerned with distancing itself with the larger public pagan religious observances, such as sacrifices, games, and holidays. This was still true as late as the violent persecutions of the Christians conducted by the Roman Emperor Diocletian between 303 and 312 CE, right? And Augustine is saying they were celebrating before 311. So they were celebrating December 25th while they were being persecuted by Rome. So why in the world would they cling to anything close to a pagan holiday in Rome when the Romans were killing them? All right, think about that. All right, they were celebrating prior to Sol Invictus, and the African churches are not going to comply with any kind of Roman thing because it's the Romans that's killing them in this time in history. Now, of course, this changes later on, but at this point, there's no way they're going to do that. All right, let's continue. Terry presented even stronger grounds for preferring the computation hypothesis for January 6th. He demonstrated that there never was a calendar of Amenhotep I, nor any clear evidence of a widespread pagan festival on January 6th. So this idea that, the church decided to, to attach itself to a pagan holiday based on this calendar, it's like, well, first of all, Augustine already showed us that they were celebrating prior to 311. Oh, and by the way, there's no way they're going to celebrate it with the pagan Rome because the pagans in Rome were trying to kill them. Oh, and by the way, that calendar that you're using as proof doesn't exist. Oops. And then around 200 CE, right? Because we know Augustine already talked about they were celebrating prior to 311, which dips us into the 200s. And it just so happens Tertullian of Carthage, again, Africa, reported the calculation that the 14th of Nisan, the day of the crucifixion along to the Gospel of John in the year Jesus died, was equivalent to March 25th in the Roman solar calendar, March 9th. 25th is, of course, 9 months before December 25th. It was later recognized as the Feast of the Annunciation, the commemoration of Jesus' conception. Thus, Jesus was believed to have been conceived and crucified on the same day of the year. Exactly 9 months later, Jesus was born on December 25th. This is from Tertullian's book at verses Eodos. 8. So you got Tertullian in Africa. You got Augustine in Africa. You have this other letter in Africa, and they're all claiming, 3rd century celebration of the birth of Christ around December 25th, way before there was any celebration of Sol Invictus. All right. This idea appears on an anonymous Christian treatise titled Solstices and Equinoxes, which appears to come from, you guessed it, 4th century North Africa. The Africans loved them some Christmas, let me tell you. These African Christians, they loved them some December 25th. The treatise states, therefore our Lord was conceived on the 8th of the Calends of April in the month of March 25th, which is the day of the Passion of the Lord and of his conception. For on that day he was conceived, and the same he suffered. Based on this, the treatise dates Jesus' birth to the winter solstice. All right, so here's another evidence here. The notion that creation and redemption should occur at the same time of year is also reflected in ancient Jewish tradition recorded in the Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud preserves a dispute between 2 early 2nd century CE rabbis who shared this view but disagree on the date. Rabbi Eleazar states, in Nisan the world was created, in Nisan the patriarchs was born. On Passover, Isaac was born, and in Nisan day our ancestors will be redeemed in time to come. The other rabbi, Joshua, dates these same events to the following month, Tishri. Thus, the dates of Christmas and Epiphany may well have resulted from Christian theological reflection on such chronologies. Jesus would have been conceived on the same date he died and born 9 months later. Now, of course, today we're not, we have far more, greater data. We're not going to compute it the same way. But the idea came from how, the Jews would chronologize certain specific events. So they were kind of mimicking that. They wasn't trying to celebrate the sun. They wasn't trying to cozy up with Rome, especially during 311, 303, when Diocletian is killing Christians. Killing Christians. There's no way they're going to be cozying up to any Sol Invictus. In fact, they couldn't, because there was no Sol Invictus. Because that thing didn't happen to what? Mid 4th century? Right? So, and if that's not enough, when translating Hippolytus' commentary on Daniel, written probably between 202 or 211, all right? Just like, we saw this guy, oh my gosh, what's his name? Tertullian, right? He wrote about December 25th, around 200 CE. We also have Hippolytus on his commentary, written around 202, 211, says here, Schmidt notes that 5 of the 7 manuscripts contain December 25th as the date for Jesus' birth, and another offers the 25th of either December or March. So we're talking early 3rd century that people were already celebrating Christmas on December 25th in the churches in Africa while being persecuted by Rome. Which would make sense, right? Because as Christians, right, our good confession is Jesus is Lord, not Caesar. Right? The gospel, the glad tidings is about Jesus being king. So why would Diocletian be happy that these churches are celebrating the birth of the true emperor? He wouldn't be too happy about that. Right? And he wasn't, as history shows us. So, in summary, Saturnalia, December 17th, not December 25th. Sol Invictus eventually gets celebrated December 25th, but look at the date, 354, 362. We're talking mid 4th century. Right? Whereas the North African churches celebrated December 25th prior to 311 AD. And we know that thanks to Tertullian of Carthage, who talks about Christ being born December 25th, 200 AD. And we got Hippolytus' commentary on Daniel, that talks about Christ being born December 25th around 202 to 11 AD. And the reason why they were trying to compute these dates, because there was a belief within the early church that the date of the death of Jesus would also reflect either his birth or his conception. And that, my friends, is the secret origin of December 25th. That's the secret. That it had nothing to do with Saturnalia. It had nothing to do with Sol Invictus. And it had everything to do to figure out his birth based on the date of his death. And they believe that it should be the same day. Like his conception, yeah, that's how they computed back then. Why they did it that way? Well, we know why, because they were imitating how the Jews in the Talmud would do their chronologies for special historical events. They were not thinking about the sun god. They were not thinking of cozying up with the Roman Diocletian, who's killing the Christians at this time. So that's the origin of December 25th. So the next time someone says Saturnalia or Sol Invictus, share this video, please. Please. So let me see real quick here what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Green. BK, I really appreciate all the time and research you put into your audience benefit. Grateful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, man. I just, just trying to do my part, man. Just trying to do my part. Thank you, CMB. Thank you, Devin. So yeah, guys. So when December 25th rolls in, you do not need to feel guilty about anything. Your brothers and sisters, early 3rd century, was celebrating the birth of Christ without even thinking about any kind of pagan deity. In fact, the celebration of the birth of Christ thumbs the nose to other deities. Because remember, Caesar was worshipped as a god. So for you to say, because the only king you're supposed to be celebrating is Caesar. So the fact that the church has said, listen, on this day, we're going to get together and celebrate the real emperor is an act of rebellion. It's a radical thing to do. Now, of course, in America, it's very much a commercial thing, and we don't feel that, right? But when you look in the history, it kind of reignites that for us. You know what I mean? It reignites that, what we're doing is countercultural to the world around us. To this day, when you say Jesus is Lord, you're thumbing your nose against the authorities and the powers that be who are against that statement. And we need to be just as radical today as our spiritual ancestors were back then, celebrating the birth of our Messiah. All right, so that's all I want to share with you guys. There was a lot of reading. I hope you guys, definitely look back at the slides. And that's about it, So, and I want to do this early enough so that because those Christmas memes are coming, right? It's like Game of Thrones, prepare, winter's coming, right? Those Christmas pagan memes are coming if they haven't came already. So I want to give you guys this video. So instead of, talking your head for hours, you could just throw them the link, and I'll do the talking for you. All right. So yeah. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I am out of here. Catch me on Friday. I'm actually going to try to do double duty on Fridays because Friday at 3, I'll be getting together with Vocab Malone, and we'll be discussing Sonetta's video that he made, which he lists the top 3 Hebrew Israelite camps. So I definitely want to get Vocab's take on that and to see if maybe he agrees, disagrees, or maybe on the spot, Vocab will make his own list. So we got to see that. And of course, we're going to, later on that evening, we're going to get together at the bodega, get our quarter waters, our Chico sticks, our ices. You know what I mean? So our soda, well, I guess in the Midwest it's soda pop. We call it soda, right? The chopped cheese sandwich and all that. So yeah. So with that being said, catch you on Friday, y'all. Peace.